Hello my friends, welcome to my channel. Today, let's explore a mysterious question. What is dark matter? First of all, many people are not even convinced that dark matter exists. So, before trying to define what dark matter is, let us ask a more basic question. How did scientists conclude that dark matter exists in the first place? The most important thing to understand is that dark matter was not discovered directly. Its existence was inferred indirectly from a series of unusual observations. In the 1930s, astronomer Fritz Ricci studied the Coma cluster. He noticed something strange. The galaxies within the cluster were moving extremely fast. According to Newton's theory of gravity, if the cluster contained only the stars and gas we can see, those galaxies should have flown apart long ago. To provide enough gravity to hold the cluster together, there had to be far more mass present than was visible. Zwicky called this unseen mass dark matter. At that time, however, many scientists did not pay much attention to this discovery. Dark matter became widely accepted as a serious scientific idea in the 1970s, largely through the work of astronomer Vera Rubin. She studied many spiral galaxies. According to classical mechanics, stars farther from the galactic center should orbit more slowly, just as the outer planets in our solar system move more slowly around the Sun. But observations revealed something very different. The speeds of stars in the outer region of galaxies hardly decreased at all. This suggested that a large amount of invisible mass was providing additional gravity. Without that extra mass, those stars could not remain in their observed orbits. This puzzle became known as the flat rotation curve problem, and it remains one of the strongest pieces of evidence for dark matter today. There is also another important evidence. According to the theory of general relativity developed by Albert Einstein, massive objects bend the path of light. Scientists can use this phenomenon known as gravitational lensing to measure the total mass of galaxies and galaxy clusters. The results show that many of these structures produce far stronger lensing effects than can be explained by visible matter alone. This again suggests the presence of a large amount of unseen mass. Another key clue comes from the cosmic microwave background radiation discovered in 1965 and studied in great detail ever since. These measurements indicate that the universe is composed of roughly 5% ordinary matter, 27% dark matter, and 68% dark energy. Without dark matter, it would be extremely difficult to explain how galaxies and galaxy clusters formed with the 13.8 billion years history of the universe. So, dark matter is not a mysterious substance invented out of thin air, nor is it a random assumption proposed without evidence. On the contrary, it is a conclusion that emerged from a large body of observational data. Scientists did not start with dark matter and then look for evidence. They encountered observations that could not be explained by visible matter alone. And dark matter became the most successful explanation for those observations. Wow! That's a lot of very rigid scientific explanation and scientific evidence. Me myself also learned a lot because I'm also just a very humble student in science. This is one of the reasons I enjoy this channel because in the process with discovering these topics, these questions, I can also learn a lot. And during this process, we can also communicate, so we learn from each other. This is just such a wonderful thing. So, but now I'd like to invite you to kind of adjust the angle we see this question. Not just by completely scientific angle. Let's try to understand the topic of dark matter by the philosophical angle. Now, let's try to understand dark matter through relational non-duality. And I promise you, eventually the conclusion will not contradict our scientific studies, because science and philosophy eventually just two different angles to understand the same reality. But essentially, they need each other, they inspire each other, and they complete each other in a lot of ways. Let's find out. So, how to understand dark matter? The most important thing is something that I repeated again and again, is our way of thinking. We have to transfer our way of thinking from substance-based thinking to relational thinking. This is just so important, because otherwise there is no way you can ever understand what dark matter is. We got to understand one thing. It's not like we discover some kind of entity or substance first, and then we discover relationship. It's the opposite. We discover, we observe, we find out, okay, this relationship is there, and then we infer to certain substance or certain entities. So in another word, this kind of entity or substance, it exists in our concept, in our mind, in our logic, in our language. But what is more fundamentally real existence rather than substance or these things in concept is the relationship with self. This is something so important. This is why that we have to have the relational thinking rather than substance-based thinking. Now, let's look at some examples. First of all, infrared radiation. When you sit next to a fireplace, for example, you can feel its warmth. But you do not actually see infrared radiation. You don't see it. Your eyes cannot form a stable relationship with infrared wavelengths. So, they do not appear as colors in your visual experience. However, your skin can interact with infrared radiation, and as a result, you feel heat. So, it is not that we have no experience of infrared radiation at all. Rather, we do not experience infrared radiation directly through sight. We experience its effects through other relationships. Dark matter is similar. We do not directly see it, but we observe the effects it produces. The second example is ultraviolet radiation. Ultraviolet light is also invisible to us. Yet, when people spend too much time in the sun, their skin may tan or burn. From these effects, scientists concluded that some invisible form of radiation must be at work. Through its indirect influences, we gradually came to realize the existence of ultraviolet radiation. In other words, we first experienced the results and then inferred the underlying structure behind them. Dark matter is similar. We first observe unusual galactic motions, and only then infer the existence of some structure that has not yet been directly observed. Another example is ultrasound. Dogs can hear certain sounds that humans cannot. This does not mean those sounds do not exist. It simply means that human ears cannot form a stable relationship with those frequencies. Later, humans invented ultrasound technology, allowing those previously inaccessible structures to enter a range of experience. Medical ultrasound is a perfect example. The fetus was always there. The ultrasound waves were always there. What changed was our ability to establish a relationship with them and make them observable. And let's think about infrasound. Elephants and whales can use infrasound to communicate across great distance. Most humans, however, are completely unaware of it. Even when infrasound passes through your body, you may feel nothing at all. Yet, scientific instruments can detect and record it. This shows that infrasound is not non-existent. It simply lies beyond the range in which it can directly appear within ordinary human senses. This shows that infrasound is not non-existent. It simply lies beyond the range in which it can directly appear within ordinary human sensory experience. All of these examples indicate one thing that should be obvious. That is, some relational structure, they didn't really enter our experiential range, but doesn't mean that they didn't exist. It just because it doesn't form a stable relationship with us, doesn't mean it's not even existing. Infrared radiation, ultraviolet radiation, ultrasound, and infrasound belongs to the hidden realm for most of human history. They were always present. They simply had not yet entered our threshold of experience. This is why before, when I explaining the manifestation of experience, I drew that picture and I said this will explain all the manifestation in different realms, because that threshold is crucial. When certain relational structure beyond that threshold, it will form a very stable relationship with us. Therefore, our experience manifested. But if it's below that range, then it just is not in the range we can have a direct relationship with it. But of course, it still exists. So actually, this is a very deep philosophical question here, that how we define something exists and how we define something not exist. When we think about it, we say wind exists. Can we really see the wind by the eyes? Of course we cannot. So how we know it exists? Because we observed other relationship there. We can see our hair waving, we can see the tree, the leaves, everything is waving in the wind. So we know that it actually, there are other relationships can indicate the existence of wind, not just by our eyes directly see it. I mean, that will be very shallow understanding, isn't it? If you think everything just you say it, so it exists, then if you don't say it, it doesn't exist. That is typical idealism, and we should pass that. And I mean, examples like this are endless. For example, if you place two magnets on a table, you cannot see the magnetic field directly. But when the magnets suddenly attract or repel each other, you know that something invisible is at work. What we actually observe is the movement of the magnets. The magnetic field itself does not enter our visual experience. Yet, through the relationship it establishes with the magnets, we can infer its existence. And when you think about it, everything we ever observed is through this process. We see the result, we see the relationship first, and then we suggest, okay, there's something exists. And sometimes we suggest its substance, its entity, but what is real actually is the relationship, as simple as that. And I think the best example is radio. Before the invention of radio, space was already filled with radio waves. Yet for people without a receiver, we thought it doesn't exist at all. But it was not that the radio waves was absent. It's not like that. Rather, it's that we had not yet developed a stable structure of relationship capable of connecting with them. So all of this, they were never like from non-existence into existence. Not like that. It's just about the matter of threshold, the matter of the range, how we can build a stable relationship with them. And this is why that relational thinking can solve all these mysteries, but substance-based thinking will never be able to solve these mysteries. Because you got to understand what is more fundamental. Is it relationship or some kind of substance or entity that we just build up in our concept, in our language, in our mind? This is the first important thing, is discover which one is more fundamental. Who rely on who? Okay, so now it's obvious that we can understand why we cannot see dark matter. We see dark matter exists, but why we cannot see it? It's about how we understand properties. Think about it. When you say that you can see a thing, you can feel a thing, you're suggesting that you observe a thing's properties. This property seems to have mass, have volume, has color, or whatever other things. But the problem is that we know that properties are relative. Properties depend and rely on relationship. Therefore, when you didn't form a relationship with that thing, of course, you wouldn't observe a certain property of that object. Therefore, you cannot notice or sense the existence of that thing. As simple as that. That's why I keep talking about this matter of property, that properties are not fixed thing inside of an object. It's never fixed. There is no such thing as fixed property. And I know that I say this a lot in different episodes, but it is fundamental. It is so important. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to understand matter or dark matter or anything at all. Because you think that's just the thing and it's fixed property there, then there's no answer then. So we got to always keep this in mind. Any properties are not independent nature inside of any things. Any properties are only manifested within stable relationship. So everything we ever know, every properties we ever know are never out of relationship. They are always manifesting within relationship. So understand dark matter is not difficult at all, and it gives us a very important philosophical insight, is that we know this universe, all the existence is built up by different relationship. But we got to understand that is some of the relationship, they didn't really resonate with us or form a stable relationship with us yet. Our relational structure didn't form a stable relationship with us yet. But it doesn't mean that they didn't exist. And yeah, I think understanding of dark matter teaches us to be humble, to know that we have our limitation of our sensory range, of our relativity about how we observe a thing, how we build a relationship with a thing, and so-called we think it has own properties, and there are a lot of misunderstanding can easily emerge. That's why we should constantly erase this ignorance so we can understand the truth. Okay, and now we should be able to define what is dark matter. And I'd like to use my own language and might be a little bit philosophical, but I believe this has its own benefit, because what's really important is not how rigid this word is. It's about how we understand existence, isn't it? So the first thing is we need to understand what dark matter is not. Dark matter is not a solid thing. It's not something made up by particles. Now, otherwise, the direction will be absolutely wrong. You will try to find the smallest particle of dark matter. So it's the same as if you want to find the smallest particle for matter, you will never be able to find it. As we already said like so many times, it's a relational structure. You find particle within, there will be more balls, small little balls, and within that small little balls, within will be even more. And dark matter is the same. There is no such thing as the smallest particles there, because the particle itself is just a combination of relationship. So this is why we're emphasizing the relational thinking. And the second thing is that we need to understand currently we do not have a direct relationship with dark matter. Dark matter refers to relational structures that lie beyond our current threshold of perception and experience. because they are unable to establish a stable relationship with our sensory systems. They do not manifest within our direct experience. So this is the second thing about dark matter. However, the third thing is that we do have an indirect relationship with dark matter. So dark matter is not completely unrelated to us. Although these relational structures do not directly enter our experience, they can form stable relationship with other structures through the effects they produce, such as gravitational influences, the motion of galaxies, and the evolution of cosmic structures. We are able to infer their existence indirectly. So in other words, we do not directly experience dark matter itself, but we do experience the network of relationships in which it participates. So the darkness or invisibility of dark matter does not mean that it does not exist. Rather, it means that it has not yet established a sufficient stable relationship with our experience to appear within it directly. So this is how relational non-duality understands dark matter. And in the last episode, we also explained how relational non-duality understands matter. And I highly suggest you to also have a look, my friend. And yes, I am very confident about this understanding. I mean, this is just the basic understanding. Of course, I know that if scientific people, they are more professional on this field, of course, they can develop more rigid systems and understanding. That's fine. But I think the underlying here, as long as we have changed our substance-based thinking to relational thinking, and everything will be fine. Honestly, I believe so. So if you ask me, what is the particle dark matter combined of, then I wouldn't be able to give you the answer because the question itself is already wrong. As I said that you already pre-assume that the fundamental thing is substance. But I mean, through all this channel that we expand through different angles, through scientific angle or philosophical angle, even for artistic angle, that we know that the true existence is about relationship. It's not about substance. And it echoes with all those ancient wisdoms from Buddhism, Shunyata, from Hinduism, Brahman, and from Taoism, the understanding of Tao. None of them would suggest that, the ultimate existence is some solid thing, is something is already fixed. That is impossible because through all the wisdom from ancient time until nowadays, our scientific revolution, we should all understand that this ocean that different rivers eventually flow into, that is the ocean of relationship. That is the ocean of ultimate truth. And thank you, my friend. In the next episode, we will delve even deeper into the understanding of existence from scientific and philosophical perspectives. Thank you for your time. If you like me or like my channel, please subscribe. You can also support me through Buy Me a Coffee. I will see you in the next episode. Bye.